Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Town of Ayer Select Board meeting for Tuesday, November 16th, 2021. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, in accordance with Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law, public bodies otherwise governed by the open meeting law are temporarily relieved from the requirement that meetings be held in public places, open and physically accessible to the public, so long as measures are taken to ensure public access to the body's deliberations through adequate alternative means. This meeting will be live on Zoom and Channel 8. The public may participate remotely by joining Zoom, meeting ID number 897-9080-0793, or by calling 929-205-6099. For additional information about remote participation, please contact Carly Antonellis, the Assistant Town Manager, at atm@ayer.ma.us or 978-772-8220, extension 100 prior to the meeting. We could all, the first order of business, we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I can't stand.
I pledge allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So first, if we could review and approve the agenda. Did either board member have any changes to the agenda as presented?
I do not.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
Seconded.
All right, board member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and the agenda is approved. I do not have any announcements for this evening. So that brings us to our recognition of Lori Fritz, the Assistant Town Clerk, on her retirement. And for this, I'm going to turn it over to the Town Clerk, Ms. Susan Copeland.
Hello and good evening. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yesterday, Lori Fritz, our Assistant Town Clerk, who was Assistant Town Clerk since 2002. Oh, we have footage, Lori. We had a send-off for her yesterday after 31 dedicated years of service to the town of Ayer. And it was also her birthday. We had a send-off, a COVID-friendly send-off to recognize her dedication all these years. So Lori started September 4th, 1990 for the town of Ayer as a part-time clerk for the Board of Health. And she was promoted to the assistant town clerk and then inevitably assistant town clerk in 2002. So Lori inherited me in 2014 and has diligently put up with me for the past 7.5 years and finally said, I've had enough. But I had started to compile, and I started too late, a list of, I wanted to give some fun facts. Scott is a fan of data. And Scott, I failed you because when I started researching it, I was hitting thousands of vital records, thousands of what she's processed over the years between elections and town meetings and the like. So like I said yesterday to our group that got together for a small luncheon, the amount of knowledge and history that walked out the door yesterday was immeasurable. And even yesterday, she continued to do her job. She stayed dedicated. Someone came up to the counter and she was helping along, and that's just Lori being Lori. So it was very different walking in here today. There's a difference when your office mate is out for the day or takes half a day or is on vacation. But it was very lonely today, not just because it was the long day, walking in and sort of missing my buddy and doing our updates on each other. When I started, I mentioned yesterday, when you start in a position and, you know, you're going through the office procedures and you say, well, it's how it's always been. That's how we always do it. So my goal is for her replacement. I'm afraid that I'm going to be saying to that person, oh, that's not how Lori did it. So I'm already trying to train myself not to get into that rut, but it's going to be hard. But like I said yesterday, I am a better person for working with her and knowing her. So it was a long 10 hours without you, buddy. I don't know how I'm going to keep on going, but Carly will have to try to fill in. It's not going to work. But that was it. So I was able, Carly had put up some slides. We received citations, rightfully so, from the Senate and the House of Representatives for her 31 years of, oh, here it comes up again. And there we go. Because truthfully, those signatures on there, those people that are in those offices, she was a part of them becoming elected. She was part of those elections and part of the whole process. So it's right that she is recognized by our legislature because she was part of that whole process, which is what's incredible at elections. It's an ongoing months of work and tedious work sometimes, but she's truly one of the most dedicated people I've ever worked with. So that's it. I could keep going, but I'm not supposed to. But
thank you, Susan.
and she even signed in on the Zoom.
Yeah, thank you so much, Susan, really.
We do have, I want to recognize, we do have Lori's husband was able to come yesterday and her daughter Amy. And I know Amy helped tonight with getting her on the Zoom call, but we also have her brother Greg and his wife on the call tonight. So just some more family support, showing some love. So I wanted to acknowledge them as well on the call.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Lori, so as a member of the board, thank you so much for your 31 years of service. And just personally, I've really enjoyed getting to know you and spend a little bit of time with you over the last 7 years. With all of my random drop-ins, you're always great to talk to. And being that I know the clerk pretty well, she really did appreciate all your dedication and hard work, and so did we. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I don't know what to say. I mean, this place, working at the town hall is like going to another home every day. All the people that I got to meet and know, and the townspeople as well. I just want to say thank you very much. And I enjoyed my stay on those 31 years of being employed by the town of Ayer.
Congratulations, Lori. Thanks for everything. I know we've crossed paths over the years when I was on finance committee, et cetera, and it was always a warm smile when I was dropping off piles and piles of minutes. So I appreciate that.
Yep.
I gotta be the same without you, Lori, and I congratulate you for having put up with Susan. You know, I know that
Because we had good times and we had some rough times, but we got through it. We always
for the 31 years, how many town clerks did you serve with?
just Ann, John, and Susan.
Oh, really? Okay. Seems
Yep.
like it should have been a lot more.
Yeah.
So-
Ann was the one who hired me. And then
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
and I just, Lori, on behalf of all of the town departments in the town, thank you for your 31 years of dedicated service. That's quite a career, and it's greatly appreciated. And just so the board knows, Lori would remind me every July about the upcoming snow memo on winter storm closing procedures. It would be about 90 degrees out. She would remind me. So in her honor, yesterday, when I issued the 2021 snow advisory to all departments, it was in honor of Miss Laurie Fritz, who always kept us on our toes, sometimes months in advance. But Laurie, thank you for everything, and we wish you and Sam and your family all the best.
thank you. Thank you.
Don't
Hi,
be a
Greg.
stranger.
I had to say hi to my brother and my sister-in-law, Greg and Jody.
And congratulations, Laurie. It's been a
Thank
long
you.
career, and for those on the call, I'm in Littleton, next town over. I was on the Board of Selectmen for a while, and I'm on the Finance Committee now. I've leaned on my sister quite a few times for some advice, what goes on in town, and she's been very helpful over the years. So you've been great help for me too, as well in the next town over. So I appreciate that. And you helped us with the recount on the election too. That was very good. Yeah. Knowledge is key. You're losing a lot of tribal knowledge in the town of Ayer, that's for sure.
Yeah. Mm,
But congratulations, Laurie, you deserve it.
thank you. All right, I got tears in my eyes. I gotta go.
All right. Thank you, Laurie.
you,
Enjoy
Laurie.
your retirement.
Take care, Lori. Enjoy that recliner
Bye.
you're gonna order.
Thank you, bye.
All right. Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Welcome. Thank you all for taking the time out for
Absolutely.
us. I appreciate it.
Hi, Amy. All right, that brings us to our next agenda item, which is public input. Just as a reminder for public input, whether it be under public input or under another item, we do limit 2 minutes. And then also if you can make sure that you address the chair directly. Is there anybody on the line for public input or on Zoom? Okay, not seeing anybody. We'll go ahead and move on to our next agenda item, which is a discussion on the future of town fireworks. For this, we welcome Chief Johnston and Chief Gill, as well as it looks like Deputy Chief Januszkiewicz. Good evening.
Good evening, Mr. Chair.
Yes, Ms. Pombrian.
Members of the Select Board. Good evening. And this evening, the chiefs and I and the deputy chief would like to just have a discussion with the Select Board on the future of the town fireworks. And at first, I think the key thing is we're not asking for any decision tonight, nor is there any decision being requested. It's more of an update of information for the board and the public, and then to have a discussion with the Select Board. And before I turn it over to the chiefs, Mr. Chair, members of the board, just to sort of frame the issue, because some time has gone by. If the board will recall, at the conclusion of the 2019 4th of July fireworks, Police Chief Murray at the time and Police Chief Pedrazi had raised significant public safety concerns, specifically related to the Peroni Park venue and the fireworks and the crowd. And on October 15th of 2019, we'd come to the board and made a presentation of those concerns. And the board had taken a vote at that time to support any necessary changes to the 4th of July event as recommended by the police and fire chief for public safety purposes. And what the main theme and the challenge is that the combination of Peroni Park and fireworks has not been a viable scenario in terms of public safety of the attendees as well as public safety personnel. And then on November 5th of 2019 at the high school auditorium, the Select Board hosted a meeting for the public. The chiefs, myself, others were present, made a presentation explaining those public safety concerns and also the very difficult decision to cancel something that has been such a long-standing event. Then March 20th, COVID happened. And from March 20th through May of 2021, so in March of 2020, under the state of emergency and COVID protocols, we would not have been able to have a fireworks display because of COVID. So I think it's important to note that for 2020, the year following this, the delay was due to COVID. Then we entered 2021, and at that time, the governor was expected to have the COVID state of emergency go through August of 2021. Unbeknown at the time, it was in May, around May 18th of 2021, that the COVID state of emergency protocols were lifted, that yes, you could have an outdoor event of this magnitude from the COVID point of view, but it was already May, and to procure a fireworks contract and so forth was not possible at that point. At the conclusion around May 2021, through this select board, I was asked to obviously look at this issue. So I've asked Chief Gill and Chief Johnston, as police chief, fire chief, and deputy fire chief Janiskevich, to look at this, to revisit this issue and look at it to see what we can do or what we can't do with respect to that. And so for tonight, I'm going to turn it over to the chiefs and the deputy, and we do have a shared screen. I believe the chief does, to walk through the scenarios and talk about sort of some next steps for consideration moving forward, if that's fine with the board. So with that, Mr. Chair, once it comes up, I will turn it over to the chiefs and the deputy who will speak to each sort of scenario, starting with Peroni Park and then moving to some of the other scenarios.
Great. All right. Thank you, Mr. Pomperian. It looks like Chief Gill, would you like to begin?
Yeah, sure. I think we're kind of going to go back and forth between myself, Chief Johnston, and Deputy Chief Janiskevich on kind of the locations and how we looked at them. We chose to start with Peroni Park because that is where the fireworks have been historically held. And I want to do a quick recap on where we were coming from in making this decision. And it really, when we were, and I was part of the process back in 2019, and we really tried to make the connection between this location as a kind of like a four walls, like a building, so to speak, and how certain things would be required in a building when you had so many people. So if we go to the next slide, unless Jeremy, do you want to talk about the work you did with that white circle?
Sure. Yeah. So what you're looking at on this slide is what I put together with the fire marshal's office. This is the basic setbacks that their office requires as part of the code compliance. You need about 70 feet per inch of shell. So this is displaying what a 5-inch shell would take to shoot off down at Peroni Park, which would be pretty typical for us. So that with some of the circle in the center of the park there, that's where the display would be launched from. And usually you would have it be equal 350 feet then either side of that dot. But because of our ability to angle the shot out over the pond, we can take what they gave us as a 1/3 offset. So we can decrease the distance to the crowd up towards that baseball field and increase the area that we would need to leave open out over the water. So we have about 200 and I think it comes out to about 235 feet from where the display is launched to where the crowd can actually be. And it extends the back side of that dot to about 465 feet. So from a fireworks standpoint, the park actually sets up pretty well to shoot, but the problem starts when you start looking at, well, where does the crowd then go? That only leaves us then about that one baseball field just beyond where that almost straight line is.
So if we go to the next slide. So this is kind of like a kind of expanding out in that neighborhood. So past years, a normal year for fireworks would normally get between 7,500 and 10,000 people. And generally they would be put into that I'm pointing, that yellow square right there, or polygon. So we would pretty much put all those people in what we are estimating is about 65,000 square feet. There's a calculation that we do when determining density in crowd size, and it's generally about 7 square feet per person. And as you can see, if we do some simple math with that, the allowable crowd for that small area would be about 9,300, and that's maximum capacity. Now, this is rough math. It could be less, could be, more, but it's probably a pretty confident figure there. And just to give you an idea of 7 square feet, that's about 2.6 foot box either way. So if you can imagine a 2.6 foot box around you, that's 7 square feet. That particular area has just one point of entry and one point of egress. And what's more importantly about that is that it's not this big area that we try to get people in and out of. We have to actually take them off when they're coming in. We have to take them from the street, compress them, put them through an area, and then out into the field. It's pretty manageable when you're bringing people in, because they're, over a period of hours, they're coming into the park. At the end point, when the park is loaded, that is the real challenge. There is, we've got a kind of a choke point there where we're trying to bring now out that 7,500 to 10,000 person crowd through probably, I'm going to say, a 20 to 30 foot area, and it might even be a little bit smaller. But if you've been down there, you know what you're talking about. Usually you have to wait for a while, even just try to walk out. And that's with people calmly walking out and just kind of making their way through. What's the next bullet point we have here? One of the things that's important to also understand with this is that though you see a lot of streets right there in that picture, there's really one way in and one way out of there. The kind of the psychology of the crowd is they're going to go in the way that they came out. No matter what happens, they're going to try and go that way. Yeah, we're going to have people in the neighborhoods to the left and right of that, and they're going to kind of find their way because they're familiar with that neighborhood. But we really have a lot of people that come in here that are not from that neighborhood, maybe from town, but we also have a lot of people who come from not only out of town, but out of state to this. So when they come down there, that's their only known route of travel. So everybody is trying to come up School Street and out onto East Main Street. And if we can just jump back a little bit, one of the psychologies of crowds are, and it happens in emergencies, is that you're really not going to have a logical. You can see to the left and right, maybe there's some either egresses in or out of there, but the psychology of a crowd is going to be panic, and they are going to revert to a very rudimentary way of thinking about getting out of there, and that's going to be through that one way that they came in. So that's where we really came up with our concern for that area as this was growing every year. So if there was an incident inside the park, we would have a really tough time getting people out of the park. And not only that, we would have an extremely tough time getting people, especially first responders, into the park. It takes about 20 minutes for just the walkers to get out of there. And I'm going to imagine that number, even though people would be running, I'm going to imagine that number is not going to be too far off of there, because we're going to have, if there's an incident in there, we're going to probably have a lot of people just in the way for us to get down there. But the other issue is, if there is an issue at the police checkpoint, which has been historically in that circle, that's where I'm pointing in right by that yellow box, is that the people that are in the park are not going to have any place to go. they're going to naturally move away from the incident, which is going to be, in this case, towards the fireworks and towards the water. And unfortunately, that will probably be a similar situation to something that is happening right now and being investigated, is the Astroworld. People just surging forward and not having any place to go. So that was our main really big concern with the fireworks display in Perone Park. So it's really about not the fireworks, not about the security, but it's about the location, and it's just not a safe place in our eyes to conduct an event with so many people down there, in an event that's been growing.
And I think if you look historically, I go back to being a kid going down there was a much smaller crowd. You go back to, was it 2019? The crowd density was unbelievable when you get right before the fireworks went off.
Okay, so we did our due diligence. We took a look at another area that came to mind, which was the Ayer Shirley Regional High School. We quickly discounted that as a viable option. I'll let Jeremy speak to that.
Sure. So comparing this to what you saw at Peroni, that circle there only represents the ability to shoot 3-inch shells. So it'd be a setback of only 175 feet. I couldn't get a plan to fit in there that had a diameter circle of 700 feet. I tried playing around with it. We went up to the school with the rangefinder and tried to shoot from a bunch of different angles, and it was pretty impossible to get something of that size. So the only plan we could come up with was a 3-inch shell, and by doing that, you eliminate all of the space needed for people to actually view the display. So the site just wasn't workable.
So we have that. And another issue that came to our mind too is that's the main route to the hospital. So we'd be cutting off a lot of ambulance traffic into the hospital. We'd have to divert them to Groton Harvard Road, which is a secondary route, but it's not the primary route.
Those two ended up being the only two sites. We'd spent a few minutes looking at a map. It was the only two sites that had a public area large enough. So then that's how we ended up starting to look at Devon's. So you're looking at the airfield now, and that image there you're viewing with that circle is back to being a 700-foot diameter circle at the north end of the runway. In terms of meeting the code, it absolutely does. There's plenty of space up there, to keep the crowd back. The Nashville River could actually serve as what they describe as a natural barrier. So it may produce the need to put up less fencing for security, but the site itself has many of the same problems that Peroni does for access. And then we get into an issue with a nesting bird during the summer up there. They're not allowed to cut the grass until sometime in late August due to a grasshopper sparrow that the Audubon wants the grass grown for. And then the other issue up here is that it's not our land.
Right. Yeah. So Deputy Chief Januszkiewicz touched on it. We have a little bit of possibly access for cars to come up there, but it's really one way in, one way out. There is a rear entrance, but one thing is important to this is it's really not conducive to walkers, which is what we encourage, are trying to encourage to come in to stop the traffic congestion, which even though Route 2A is long and windy, the amount of cars that come in from out of town will clog up any road. The Fitchburg Road might be able to take a little bit better, but it's just not conducive to walkers. So then we looked at Willard Field, which is just off of West Main Street. And you can kind of see it's the old Verbeck Gate area where the fields are.
Yeah, so I think this would be what I remember as a child going to, is where the Army would have produced their show back in the 80s and 90s. This field, no problem, took the 700-foot radius for the 5-inch shell. It ends up taking a circle somewhere up towards all the way from Antietam all the way down to our West Main. The site does have some existing fencing for baseball and then existing fencing along the roadway that can limit some of the work required to secure the site for shooting. And you'll see in a future slide here that the site is much larger than what Peroni Park is for access.
So as you'll see, there's a large area necessary for some safety fencing, but what is highlighted there in the yellow is the usable space. And what you'll see, I think if you click again to the next slide. So where Peroni Park is approximately 63,000 square feet, the usable space here, just this triangle that I've highlighted, not even counting the field on the other side of, I think that's Sherman, is 387,000 square feet. And that, using that same map that we used at Peroni Park, just that area there can accommodate 55,000 people under the same guidance and the same usage we do down at Peroni Park. There's some very good positives about this: multiple points of entry and exit for pedestrians and for vehicles. The vehicles, it's not in this shot, but as most people are familiar with this area, know that there are a lot of streets and a lot of areas for parking down here. One of the important things for safety wise is that pedestrians aren't limited to one area in and one area out, or even two areas in. Some of this stuff is wide open. So if there was an incident, you would greatly reduce the possibility of compression in either directions. So it's from a safety standpoint like that, it's a very big positive. And one of the other things too is that because of all the roadways in that area, we can easily designate a first responder only roadway or a collection point. So it's this, when we started looking at this field, this area, we were very optimistic that something like this would be a big potential. One of the, not drawbacks is, but one of the things that we have to keep in context is that Willard Field isn't air. It's part of mass development. So it would require speaking with them and finding out if there's a way that we could somehow have a kind of a joint effort, maybe in some form of a display. This slide here just kind of shows a little bit of, so the yellow, we can still see it there. That's the 387,000 square feet. The blue is the approximate size of Peroni Park, 63,000. So that just kind of puts it in perspective as to Peroni Park and here. And then the next area we looked at was Rogers Field in Devens. This is kind of in the old parade field.
Rogers ended up setting up pretty close to what Willard did as far as how easy it was to shoot that 700-foot circle. It uses some existing fencing on Elm Road that just saves a little bit of labor when we go to set up that perimeter. And the other thing that was just noted when we viewed that site, that it is surrounded by some mass development infrastructure. The fire department is directly across the street. The state police barracks are located right there on, I think it's Buena Vista. So it just had some benefits to having existing infrastructure, for dealing with any type of large crowd. It was even larger than what existed down in Willard Field.
So it's just what was just said, large area safety fencing is needed, but there's some areas that can be reused. This area here, as everybody who's been there knows, it's a huge field. And this usable area it's about 600,000 square feet of viewing area, I guess. And using that same simple math, that could accommodate 86,000 people. Just like Willard Field had multiple points of entry and exit for pedestrians and vehicles. Traffic can filter out through many of the roadways, and if there's any type of incident, pedestrians aren't limited to any type of choke points. They can get out in almost any direction without any issues. And as Jeremy talked about also, that there are areas for first responder only access. There can be roads that designated strictly for that. But again, this is property that is under the control of mass development and require their authorization. And just another perspective shot. That's the approximate size of Peroni Park compared to the usable space in Rogers Field.
Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Pomper.
Through you and the board, before we open it through you to any questions the board has. So in terms of next steps, we have approached mass development and the leadership at the Army base up there. There's a new officer up there. And we have scheduled a meeting for December 1st to discuss the opportunity of a partnership for consideration on one of the mass development sites. And there is actually a level of interest to move in that direction. And so to conclude, not to reiterate everything that was said, the fireworks have evolved to a point that we need a larger space. And unfortunately, in Ayer at 9.5 square miles, we don't have a lot of opportunities. The chief clearly outlined the situation at Peroni Park, which has not changed since 2019. Unfortunately, the high school campus is not a viable option as presented, but perhaps we can bring the fireworks, back to Devon. So in terms of next steps, there will be a meeting on December 1st regarding the further development of that. And with that concludes the presentation, and return it to you if there are questions from the board.
Great, thank you. I guess I know for Peroni Park, we discussed because the amount of people has grown over the years that it's become unmanageable. Is there a safe number of people that you could think of that would allow it to still happen, or?
There, Mr. Chair, there may be, but to control that number, I think we talked about it in 2019. Is how would we limit that? And that became I guess a challenge for us to figure that out.
Okay, Janice.
So just to kind of bring you up to speed, Mr. Chair, is it was discussed, like he explained. So one of the problems is like it was discussed even being like a residence only. But how do you police that? And then if you're trying to, you have to close down the town at a certain hour so that only residents come in. Well, now you've got somebody who came in, late, and now they're mad because they're trying to get to traffic just to get home, not even go to the fireworks. So there's, and how do you card somebody to prove that they're a resident? So that becomes a problem. So like you said, that's the big problem. And of course, I know that there are some people going, well, no, if there was an emergency, I would go like this way. It's like, no, we've been trained since children, go that way. When we go with the crowd, we divide up with people and we all say, okay, this is where we're going to meet. Everybody says there's going to be a meeting place, and so that's where everyone's going to meet at the end of the evening. So that becomes the problem too. I love the idea of hopefully bringing it back to Devon's. That would be ideal for everybody. You know, but at the same token, fireworks is becoming a bigger discussion that's going to eventually have to be covered no matter where it's at. So.
Thanks, Janice. Scott, did you have any questions?
Yeah, first off, I want to thank everyone who pulled the presentation together. I know it's not an easy feat, given the amount of information that has to be calculated and put together. Yeah, in addition to what Janice was saying about, you know, trying to limit the crowd, et cetera, there's also the parking situation down at Peroni. So, you know, I think that even if we were to try to limit the number of people at Peroni, if we were to be able to build some way to manage that and police that, you know, you still have the parking issue and people trying to get in and out. I think the best viable option is to pursue a Devon's option, something in tandem with the base there, or also with mass development that would provide a open, safe area for the fireworks to resume.
Great, thank you. Any other comments or questions?
Mr. Chair, could I just add a few
Oh,
comments?
yes. Yes.
I think another thing to look at is the public safety team looked at this. I mean, I was born and raised here and loved going to the fireworks down there, but the unfortunate thing is from the 70s and 80s when the town was 4,000 or 5,000 people, we've now grown to a town of 8,200, and you know, we've just plain outgrown that small area of Perone Park. So that was something the team looked at as a whole too. And I think if we remember, I mean, there was plenty of Ayer residents, I think, that would venture off even walking back up to Devon's if that would come to fruition. So just a couple added comments. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments? Okay, without hearing or seeing any, yes, thank you, chiefs and deputy chief. It was very informative. And thank you, Robert, for informing us about your pending meeting with Devon Mass Development. And with that, that brings us to our next agenda item, which would be the town manager's report.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, good evening. In terms of the administrative update, you have the warrants in your packet that were approved since the board last met on November 2nd. A couple of quick announcements, Mr. Chair. Just a reminder and a special thanks to the fire department, which will be bringing back the turkey party, which is tomorrow at the fire station at 7 p.m. And a special thanks to all of the firefighters in the department for putting together that event, which will be nice to have back after the hiatus. As I mentioned before, on December 4th, Saturday, December 4th, we're also pleased to bring back what had been the annual holiday stroll starting at 4:45 p.m. And there'll be more promotion on that, which is a great event that has been brought to the town through Alan's efforts and also Miss Antonellis's efforts. As folks have probably seen, the holiday lights are starting to go up. And we'll also be having on December 18th, the ice sculptures will be coming to Town Hall, and Alan has some new and exciting surprises in that department. So it's nice to see holiday events beginning to happen again. So we look forward to that. Also, that's the exciting stuff, but equally exciting, just a reminder to the public that at the next select board's meeting on Tuesday, December 7th at 6 p.m. will be the tax classification hearing with the Board of Assessors regarding the tax classification. In terms of on the budget front, the capital process is well underway under the leadership of Mr. Hood, who's the chair of the committee. Just wanted to also let the board know and the public know that the Capital Planning Committee met last Wednesday and has set its next 3 meetings. Its next meeting is tomorrow at 4 p.m. on Zoom. They'll meet with the parks and the DPW. On December 1st, they'll be meeting with the COA, town clerk, IT, sort of the smaller departmental requests, if you will. And then on December 8th, meeting with the police department and fire department. All of those meetings are on Zoom at 4. And there is a capital planning committee webpage on the town website. If you go to capital planning, all of the capital plans are there, as will be supporting documents as we move forward. The December 1st, it's hard to believe is going to be here soon, will be the issuing of the FY23 budget directive for all departments to begin preparing the budget as we move forward. And what I would like to do in the interest of time, for the meeting on December 7th, under my report, I would like to make just a very brief presentation, which I will call FY23 budget needs. It'll sort of be a brief, a higher overview of budgetary needs that the town is facing. I understand more than anybody that we can't do everything or get everything, but I think we've been working on this and like to look at some of the critical needs in the FY23 budget for consideration. So I'd like to do that as part of my report for December 7th as we move forward. And so with that, I don't know if there are any questions from the board. All things are mostly budget preparation now, but I don't know if there are any questions from the board on any town matters that I can answer.
No questions for me. Thank you.
Janice?
I have none.
Okay, same, none at this time.
So the FY23 budget update has sort of provided some of the benchmark dates. And then for the 7th, I'd like to have that brief presentation and discussion and feedback from the board on sort of the budget needs for FY23. That concludes my report, if there aren't any other questions. Short one tonight. And I just want to wish all of you a happy Thanksgiving. I know it's next week. Hard to believe it's coming up so quick. So with that, thank you for your time and consideration.
All right, thank you, Robert. Brings us to our next item, the approval of meeting minutes from the November 2nd, 2021 meeting. Any changes or edits to those?
I had none.
I didn't have any either.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of November 2nd, 2021 as submitted.
I will second.
Okay, Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. The meeting minutes are approved as presented. That brings us to our next item, which is executive session.
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
I make a motion that the select board move into executive session pursuant to Mass General Law 30A, Section 21A, exemption number 3, contract negotiations, fire contract, DPW contract, and police superiors contract, and that we adjourn from executive session and we will not return to open session.
Second.
Board Member Livingston, how do you vote?
Aye.
Board Member Hood, how do you vote?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, and we're in executive session. Thank you, everybody who attended this evening.